Hey, welcome to Pastor Ryan. Thanks for checking this station out. This is your weekly podcast where we post on Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays, we walk through a passage or a chapter of the Bible. We pull the truths of God out so we can apply it to our lives. Thursday is This Day in History, where we check out big events, births, deaths that impact the world around us. Hey, don't forget to check back often each week. Like, share, subscribe. Love God, love people, make disciples. Okay, welcome back. Today is Thursday, February the 18th, 2021. That means it's This Day in History. Today, let's start out with this. Fox News reported on Wednesday Rush Limbaugh, the monumentally influential media icon who transformed talk radio and politics in his decades behind the microphone, helping shape the modern day Republican Party, died Wednesday morning at the age of 70 after a battle with lung cancer, his family announced. So, Rush Limbaugh, you either really liked him or you disliked him. And we see that all throughout social media now. Either you really like him and what he did for talk radio, or you disliked him because of some of the things he said or how he landed on the ideological spectrum. And so Rush Limbaugh, I think, was monumentally influential in just how we do radio, even podcasting. And so we have to mention that. We are sorry for the loss of his family's going through, and so we pray for them. So today I'm using history.com to walk through some of the big things in history. And the first one that pops up on their website is February the 18th, 1885. Mark Twain publishes his famous and famously controversial novel, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Twain, of course, the pen name for Samuel Clemens. He first introduced Huck Finn as the best friend of Tom Sawyer, hero of his tremendously successful novel, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, back in 1876. Though Twain saw Huck's story as kind of a sequel to his earlier book, the new novel was far more serious, focusing on the institution of slavery and other aspects of life in the antebellum South. 2011, Green River serial killer pleads guilty to 49th murder. Goodness gracious. February 18, 2011, in a Kent, Washington courtroom, Gary Leon Ridgway pleads guilty to the 1982 aggravated first-degree murder of his 49th victim. Wow. Did not know that was even a thing. 2010, WikiLeaks publishes the first documents leaked by Bradley Manning, now Chelsea Manning. 1959, Ray Charles records What Did I Say at Atlantic Records. So the way the story goes, Ray Charles places a phone call back to the producer and was like, "Hey, I'm playing these songs like off the cuff stuff he just kind of made up as he was playing, and the people are loving it, and they produce a record off of just stuff he wrote off the cuff during concerts, which is kind of cool." 1930, Pluto was discovered. Fast forward into the future, Pluto's not a planet. I think Pluto's a planet. Pluto, you got my respect. 1878, murder ignites Lincoln War or Lincoln County War, right? If Lincoln sounds familiar, it's because it is. So this tension in Lincoln County, New Mexico, is explodes or turns into this shooting war when gunmen murder the English rancher John Tunstall. You might have heard of this name before. You probably also heard of John Chisholm and Alexander McSween, but it turns into, guess what? Tunstall hires a young man to protect his cattle, protects his ranch, and the young man is William Bonney, better known as Billy the Kid. If you don't know much about it, go check out Young Guns 1, Young Guns 2, probably up there in the top 10, at least Young Guns 1, top 10 Westerns of all time. And so those are some of the things that have happened this day in history. There's a lot more. Go check out history.com and you'll learn a whole lot more. So one of the biggest things that happened this day in history, 2001, Dale Earnhardt Sr. Crashed at Daytona and was ultimately killed because of his injuries in the crash. 7-time NASCAR champion, the father of Dale Jr., who is now a broadcaster. He has his own podcast. Was a good racer himself, not at the standard of his dad. Just nobody could live under that kind of shadow. But 7-time champion, he was known as the Intimidator. I remember watching him as a young kid, and if he got behind somebody, if they didn't move for him to pass, because I mean, if he was faster, he was going to pit him. He was going to like bump him and just run, like the old bump and run. He was known as the Intimidator, right? You can imagine this huge mustache, huge sunglasses, all black car, just a really, really awesome race car driver. He's known in NASCAR as like one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history. And he backed it up by winning a lot. I mean, 7 championships is amazing. But it was this day in history in 2001. In closing, I want to look at Acts 17. Paul is on one of his missionary journeys. He's addressing the Areopagus. Acts 17, verse 22 starts with this. So Paul, standing in the midst of the Areopagus, said, Men of Athens, I perceive that in every way you are very religious. For as I passed along and observed the object of your worship, or the objects of your worship, I found also an altar with the inscription, To the unknown God. What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you. Like, hey, you're worshiping this unknown thing just so you can cover all your bases. But let me tell you about God. It's an amazing moment that he begins to share about who God is to these religious, by culture standards, people. He says in verse 24 of Acts 17, the God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is he served by human hands, as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him and find him. Yet he is actually not far off from each one of us. This is one of my favorite passages in the book of Acts. God created man, and he determines our time and our place. He did this so that we might reach out to him, though he is not far off from each one of us. Think about where you are right now, 2021, amidst coronavirus, amidst political division, amidst just all kinds of things, and yet God determined the place and the time with which you would live in history. God creates. God also creates, but he cares for humanity. God is even closer than you think. There may be days when life is a blur. In our current season, it seems sometimes hard to even know what day it is. Be encouraged. God knows where you are right now, and he cares for you, and he's not far off. Love God, love people, make disciples.